Far below the sunlit surface of our oceans, in a world of crushing pressure and perpetual darkness, lies a treasure trove that could shape the future of our planet. This is not a landscape of sunken ships and pirate gold, but a vast, silent plain scattered with what look like ordinary rocks. Yet these humble-looking objects hold the key to our green energy future. They contain the very metals needed to power our modern world. From the electric cars we drive to the wind turbines that harness the power of the breeze. As our society transitions away from fossil fuels, the demand for these minerals has skyrocketed, turning our attention to the last great frontier on Earth, the deep ocean floor. This immense and mysterious realm, less explored than the surface of the moon, is now at the center of a new global race. Nations and corporations are looking to these depths as a new source of essential resources, sparking a competition that is as much about economic prosperity as it is about geopolitical influence. The minerals found here, cobalt, nickel, copper, and manganese, are the building blocks of the batteries, solar panels, and advanced electronics that define our age. Unlocking this underwater bounty promises to fuel technological progress and secure supply chains, but it also opens a new chapter in our relationship with the natural world, one filled with both incredible opportunity and profound responsibility. The quest to mine the ocean floor is not simply a matter of engineering and economics, it is a story about the future of our planet. It forces us to ask difficult questions about what we value. How do we balance our urgent need for clean energy materials with the protection of pristine, ancient ecosystems that have existed undisturbed for millions of years? This is a challenge that involves scientists, governments, environmental advocates, and citizens from all corners of the globe. The decisions we make in the coming years will have consequences that ripple through our economies and, most importantly, through the silent, dark world that covers more than 2/3 of our planet's surface. As we stand on the precipice of this new industrial age, it is crucial to understand the forces at play. This is not just a story about rocks and metals, it is a story about human ambition, innovation, and our enduring connection to the natural world. The race to the bottom of the sea has begun, and its outcome will define not only who leads the next technological revolution, but also what kind of stewards we choose to be for the magnificent and fragile blue heart of our world. The journey into this deep frontier is a journey into our own values and our vision for the future of life on Earth. Imagine a lumpy, dark potato lying on a sandy plain. Now, imagine millions of them spread across the ocean floor for thousands of square kilometers. These are polymetallic nodules. They are not ordinary stones. They are remarkable natural formations that have grown over millions of years, layer by microscopic layer, much like a pearl forms around a grain of sand. At their core is often a tiny fragment, perhaps a shark's tooth or a piece of volcanic rock. Over eons, minerals present in the seawater have slowly precipitated and crystallized around this core, forming a dense metallic lump that can range in size from a small pebble to a large bowling ball. The true wonder of these nodules lies within their composition. They are like a natural alloy, rich in some of the most sought-after metals on Earth. A single nodule can contain high concentrations of manganese and iron, but more critically, they are also packed with nickel, copper, and cobalt. These are the very elements that engineers and innovators are desperate for. Nickel and cobalt are essential components in the high-performance batteries that power electric vehicles, while copper is a fundamental conductor used in everything from wind turbines to the wiring in our homes and electronics. Without a stable and abundant supply of these metals, our global transition to a sustainable, low-carbon economy could stall. These metallic potatoes are most famously found in a region of the Pacific Ocean known as the Clarion-Clipperton Zone. This vast abyssal plain stretching between Hawaii and Mexico is estimated to hold more cobalt, nickel, and manganese than all land-based reserves combined. For generations, these nodules have rested in the silent dark, part of an ecosystem we are only just beginning to understand. Now they represent a potential solution to a looming resource crisis on the surface. The allure is undeniable. A single, concentrated source for the materials needed to build a greener world, waiting to be collected from the ocean floor. However, their existence raises a monumental question. These nodules are not just inert rocks, they are the hard-won product of immense geological time, and form the physical habitat for a unique array of deep-sea life. They are an integral part of an ancient and stable environment. The prospect of harvesting them on an industrial scale means we must consider what it means to remove the very foundation of an ecosystem. The story of polymetallic nodules is therefore a story of a paradox. They are a potential key to a sustainable future on land, yet their retrieval could risk the destruction of a pristine and irreplaceable world below the waves. In the unfolding global drama of deep-sea mining, China is not playing the role of the hasty prospector. Instead, it has adopted the posture of a grand chess master, quietly and methodically positioning its pieces for long-term dominance. Rather than rushing to be the first to break the seabed, China is pursuing a patient and multifaceted strategy focused on securing access, building partnerships, and developing the industrial might to control the entire supply chain. This approach is less about winning a sprint and more about ensuring it controls the marathon. A key pillar of this strategy is securing exploration rights in international waters, a task managed by the International Seabed Authority. To date, China holds 5 exploration contracts from the International Seabed Authority, more than any other single nation. These contracts give Chinese entities the exclusive right to explore vast swaths of the ocean floor, particularly in the mineral-rich Clarion-Clipperton zone. This is not a random land grab, it is a calculated move to secure a future supply of critical minerals. By controlling the rights to these underwater territories, China is placing a significant bet on the future of the industry. It ensures that when the time comes for commercial extraction to begin, it will be one of the largest and most influential landlords of the deep sea, with a powerful voice in how these resources are managed and distributed. Beyond the international waters governed by the International Seabed Authority, China is also extending its reach by forging strategic partnerships with Pacific Island nations. Countries like the Cook Islands and Kiribati have sovereign rights over the seabed within their own exclusive economic zones, and these areas are also rich in nodules. By collaborating with these nations, China can legally explore and potentially mine in these national waters, expanding its footprint without challenging international law. These partnerships are often framed as mutually beneficial, offering economic development opportunities to the island nations in exchange for access to their resources. This diplomatic maneuvering is a crucial part of China's quiet expansion, building a network of influence across the Pacific. The final, and perhaps most critical piece of China's strategy, lies not on the ocean floor, but back on land. While other companies may be developing advanced robotic collectors, China's ultimate advantage may be its unparalleled industrial capacity to process the raw materials once they are brought to the surface. Extracting nodules is only the first step. Separating them into pure cobalt, nickel, and copper requires immense and highly sophisticated metallurgical facilities. China is already a world leader in mineral processing and refining. By ensuring it has the state-backed industrial power to turn seabed nodules into battery-ready metals at scale, it aims to become the indispensable final link in the deep-sea mining value chain, a position of immense strategic and economic power. China's approach to deep-sea mining is a masterclass in strategic patience, a concept deeply rooted in its long-term geopolitical and economic planning. While headlines may focus on the technological race to build the first deep-sea harvester, China's leaders understand that true control comes not from being first, but from being the most prepared. Their vision extends far beyond the initial extraction of nodules. It encompasses the entire ecosystem of the industry, from exploration and mining to processing, manufacturing, and ultimately, market control. This patient game is designed to ensure that when deep-sea mining becomes a global industrial reality, China will be at its very center, dictating the flow of these vital 21st-century resources. This long-term vision is evident in the way China has supported its state-owned enterprises in this field. Companies like the China Ocean Mineral Resources Research and Development Association and China Minmetals are not just commercial entities, they are instruments of national strategy. They have received sustained government backing to conduct scientific research, map the seabed, and test technologies without the constant pressure for immediate commercial returns that private Western companies often face. This allows them to methodically build expertise, gather data, and refine their plans over years, or even decades, ensuring that their eventual operations are efficient, scalable, and aligned with national interests. A crucial element of this patient strategy is the focus on processing and refining. China recognizes that the real bottleneck in the future supply chain will not be the ability to scoop nodules off the ocean floor, but the capacity to turn those nodules into high-purity metals. By investing heavily in building and perfecting large-scale hydrometallurgical plants, China is preparing to become the world's primary refinery for deep-sea minerals, regardless of who mines them. This creates a powerful form of leverage. Other nations or companies might succeed in mining the nodules, but they may find themselves dependent on China to turn their haul into a usable product, effectively making China the gatekeeper of the green economy. This patient, holistic approach provides China with significant geopolitical advantages. It allows the country to position itself as a responsible stakeholder, often urging restraint and calling for clear international regulations to be established before commercial mining begins. This stance contrasts sharply with more aggressive moves by others and helps build diplomatic capital. By playing the long game, China avoids the risks of early technological failures or environmental mishaps while steadily assembling all the necessary components for future dominance. Its strategy is not a race to the bottom, but a slow and deliberate ascent to the top of a new global industry. While China plays its long and patient game, other nations are moving with a greater sense of urgency, creating a fascinating contrast in strategies on the global stage. The United States in particular has recently shifted its stance to a more aggressive and accelerated approach. Worried about falling behind and becoming dependent on rivals for critical minerals, the United States government has taken steps to fast-track the path for American companies to begin mining operations. In April 2025, an executive order was signed to speed up the permitting process, signaling a clear intent to stake a claim in the deep-sea frontier and counter China's growing influence. This assertive American posture is made possible by a unique and controversial legal position. The United States has never ratified the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, the international treaty that established the ISA and the framework for governing deep-sea activities. This means that, in theory, the United States does not consider itself bound by the ISA's authority in international waters. The recent executive order leans on domestic law, specifically the 1980 Deep Seabed Hard Mineral Resources Act, to authorize American companies to move forward. This unilateral action has been criticized by China and other nations as a move that undermines international law and the cooperative spirit of managing a shared global resource. Other players are also making bold moves. Japan, for instance, has been a quiet but consistent force in developing its deep-sea mining capabilities. Japanese researchers conducted successful excavation tests in 2020 and have ambitious plans to begin large-scale nodule extraction as early as 2026. India, another rising power, is also investing in its own deep-sea program, successfully completing a nodule collection trial in late 2024. These nations, like the United States, are driven by the strategic imperative to secure their own supplies of critical minerals and reduce their reliance on a market that is increasingly influenced by China's dominance in land-based mining and processing. This scramble creates a complex and somewhat tense geopolitical landscape. On one side, you have China's slow, methodical consolidation of power through contracts, partnerships, and industrial development. On the other, you have a collection of nations, led by a newly assertive United States, pushing for faster action to avoid being left behind. This dynamic puts immense pressure on the international regulatory system and raises the stakes for the entire planet. The contrast is clear. One side is building a foundation for a house it plans to own forever, while the others are racing to put up walls before they are boxed out completely. At the heart of the global conversation about deep-sea mining is a unique and powerful organization, the International Seabed Authority, or ISA. Based in Kingston, Jamaica, the ISA was established by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, often called UNCLOS. Its mandate is extraordinary: to organize, regulate, and control all mineral-related activities in the international seabed area, which is defined as the ocean floor beyond the limits of national jurisdiction. This vast territory is legally considered the common heritage of humankind, meaning it belongs to everyone, and the ISA's job is to manage it on behalf of all nations, ensuring that its benefits are shared equitably. The ISA's primary function so far has been to grant and oversee exploration contracts. As of 2025, it has issued over 24 such contracts to governments, state-owned enterprises, and private companies sponsored by member states. These contracts allow entities to survey specific areas of the seabed, collect data, and test mining technologies, but they do not permit commercial-scale extraction. For years, the ISA has been painstakingly negotiating a complex set of rules, regulations, and procedures known as the Mining Code that will govern how commercial mining can actually take place. This process has been slow and difficult, reflecting the deep divisions among member states. The challenge for the ISA is to strike an incredibly difficult balance. On one hand, it must facilitate the development of seabed resources to benefit humanity, particularly developing nations, as its charter requires. The potential economic windfall from mining royalties could fund development projects and scientific research around the world. On the other hand, the ISA has an equally important duty to ensure the effective protection of the marine environment from the harmful effects that may arise from mining activities. This dual mandate places the organization squarely in the middle of the fierce debate between economic interests and environmental preservation. The pressure on the ISA is now reaching a boiling point. The urgent push from countries like the United States and the advanced technological readiness of companies like the Metals Company have created a powerful demand to finalize the mining code and begin issuing exploitation licenses. At the same time, a growing chorus of nations and scientific bodies is calling for a precautionary pause or a moratorium on all mining activities until the environmental risks are better understood. The ISA is the global gatekeeper, and the world is watching to see which way it will turn the key. Will it open the door to a new industrial frontier, or will it heed the calls for caution and keep it closed for now? As the race to the deep sea accelerates, a powerful chorus of concern is rising from scientists, environmental organizations, and a growing number of governments. Their message is clear. We know far too little about the deep ocean to risk causing irreversible damage. The abyssal plains where polymetallic nodules are found are not barren wastelands. They are unique, ancient, and incredibly fragile ecosystems. Life in the deep sea moves at a glacial pace. Organisms grow slowly, reproduce infrequently, and have adapted to a stable environment of darkness, cold, and immense pressure. Any disturbance could have consequences that last for centuries or even millennia. The primary environmental worry is the direct physical destruction of the seabed habitat. The proposed mining methods involve large robotic collectors, essentially giant vacuums or bulldozers, crawling across the ocean floor, scraping up the top layer of sediment to collect the nodules. This process would effectively erase the habitat for any creature living on or in the immediate vicinity of the nodules, from tiny microbes to larger, slow-moving animals. Since the nodules themselves took millions of years to form, the physical habitat they provide would be gone forever on a human timescale. We could be wiping out entire ecosystems before we have even had a chance to discover what lives there. Beyond the direct path of the mining machines, there is the problem of sediment plumes. The collection process will inevitably stir up vast clouds of fine sediment, which can drift for hundreds of kilometers on deep-sea currents. These plumes could have devastating effects. They could smother stationary filter-feeding organisms like sponges and corals far from the actual mining site, essentially choking them. The sediment could also cloud the water, interfering with the bioluminescent signals that many deep-sea creatures use to communicate, find mates, and hunt for food. Furthermore, the process of bringing the nodules to the surface and returning wastewater could release toxic metals and create another plume in the mid-water column, affecting a different set of marine life. Faced with these profound unknowns, a significant global movement has emerged calling for a moratorium on deep-sea mining. As of 2025, over 30 countries, including France, Germany, and Spain, have publicly supported a pause to allow for comprehensive and independent scientific research. Prominent figures like French President Emmanuel Macron have been vocal advocates for caution, arguing that we must prioritize the protection of the ocean's health. This call for a timeout is not necessarily a permanent ban, but a plea for precaution. It is a request to press pause on the industrial machinery until we can confidently answer the most basic question: what will we lose in our rush to the bottom? The debate over deep-sea mining is not a simple one with clear heroes and villains. It is a complex conversation with passionate and well-intentioned voices on all sides, each highlighting a different facet of this global dilemma. On one side are the proponents of mining, who argue that it is a necessary step to secure the future of our planet. They point to the urgent need for cobalt, nickel, and copper to build the batteries and infrastructure for a green energy revolution. Without these metals, they argue, we may remain dependent on fossil fuels for far longer, with all the catastrophic climate consequences that entails. These advocates, including companies like the Metals Company, also present deep-sea mining as an environmentally and socially preferable alternative to land-based mining. They highlight the human rights abuses, deforestation, and massive carbon footprints associated with many terrestrial mines, particularly in politically unstable regions. Seabed nodules, they claim, offer a way to source these metals with a potentially lower impact on human communities and terrestrial ecosystems. They envision a closed-loop system where metals are recycled, but argue that we first need a massive injection of new materials to build the green economy, and the deep sea is the most responsible place to get them. On the other side of the debate are the environmental stewards, who warn that we are on the verge of making a terrible mistake. Scientists specializing in deep-sea biology emphasize how little we know about this realm. They argue that we could trigger a cascade of extinctions, wiping out species we have not even discovered yet. These experts stress that deep-sea ecosystems provide critical, if poorly understood, services for the planet, such as carbon sequestration. Damaging them could have unforeseen consequences for the entire global ocean system. They contend that the claim of greener mining is unproven, and that we should focus on recycling, reducing demand, and developing alternative battery chemistries instead of opening a new frontier for extraction. Caught in the middle are the developing nations, particularly the small island states of the Pacific. For them, the debate is deeply personal and economic. Sponsoring deep-sea mining activities in their national waters or through the ISA could provide a transformative source of revenue, funding education, healthcare, and climate adaptation projects. However, these same nations are also on the front lines of ocean health decline and climate change, and their cultural and economic well-being is intrinsically tied to a healthy marine environment. Their voices are a powerful reminder that the stakes of this debate are not abstract. They are about livelihood, sovereignty, and the survival of entire communities in a changing world. We have journeyed from the sunlit surface to the abyssal plains, uncovering a story of immense ambition and profound uncertainty. The global race for the treasures of the deep sea is more than just a competition for resources, it is a defining moment for our civilization. The decisions we make now will echo for generations, shaping not only our technological future, but also the health of the vast blue engine that makes life on Earth possible. This is not a challenge with an easy answer, but one that demands we find a delicate and wise balance between our immediate needs and our long-term responsibilities as guardians of the planet. The economic and technological stakes are undeniably high. The nation or coalition that successfully and sustainably unlocks the mineral wealth of the deep sea will hold a powerful key to the 21st century economy. They will influence the pace of the green energy transition, control critical supply chains, and gain significant geopolitical leverage. This is why nations like China are investing so strategically, and why others like the United States are scrambling to catch up. The promise of a secure, abundant source of the metals needed to decarbonize our world is a powerful incentive, one that is difficult for any forward-looking government to ignore. Yet the environmental stakes are equally, if not more, profound. The deep ocean is the largest and least understood biome on Earth. It is a realm of ancient life, unique biological processes, and fragile stability. To proceed with industrial-scale mining before we comprehend the potential consequences is to run a planetary-scale experiment with no control group and no way to reverse the outcome. The calls for a moratorium are not born of opposition to progress, but from a place of deep respect for the unknown and a commitment to the precautionary principle, the idea that we should not risk catastrophic harm when our knowledge is incomplete. Ultimately, the future of our oceans rests on a question we must all consider: how do we navigate the path forward? Is it possible to pursue progress without sacrificing preservation? Can we innovate our way to a solution, perhaps through better recycling technologies and less resource-intensive designs that reduces the pressure to mine new frontiers? Or is deep-sea mining an unavoidable step in our journey to a sustainable future? There are no simple answers. But as we stand at this critical crossroads, we are invited to become part of the conversation, to weigh the glittering promise of the treasures below against the silent, irreplaceable wonder of the deep ocean itself. The choice we make will be our legacy.